Michelle.
Daniel, OG Rose, and today we're going to be talking about the story of OG Rose. A long time ago, Davood Gozli once said that he would love to learn more about our story, our biography, and things like that. So I thought we'd do that. Thought it'd be a nice opportunity for that. We have a bit of a cold, cough, and different things this time of year, so sorry about that. But yeah, we thought we would talk about our story. So Michelle, how did things start?
Well, interestingly enough, Daniel and I met in a library.
Yes.
But actually, first my twin sister Mary-Lise met Daniel at a vending machine.
Yeah, vending machines are the place.
At another library.
Yeah. I didn't venture out much.
Oh my gosh, if only people knew.
No, I did not. It was like a thing. Like you
Daniel
would stay at Alderman.
lived in the library.
You would stay at Alderman.
Not joking.
Well, you had that front area in Alderman at UVA where you'd stay there till midnight. Alderman would close. You had the great exodus where you'd go over to Clemens. So it was like a thing every night. You'd have the standing tables in Alderman, so you would stand there, and then midnight you make the move over.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I remember Mary-Lise met you first. And she had her hat on.
She
like
did.
What's it called? Like a chulo. It's like a knit hat from, like a Peruvian knitted hat. And
she did.
you commented on something about like how you forgot your hat.
Yeah,
you couldn't match with her.
We didn't match. I felt bad.
And so anyway, she told me about this, like how funny you were.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
I just felt bad about not wearing the hat.
So yeah, then one time I was going to Clemens to meet up with Mary-Lise, my twin sister, because we all went to the same university. And she was there, like, in her discrete math class, which was, like, all guys and her. It was just, like, she's, like, I think she accidentally signed up for the class somehow. And so, anyway, she was
Kudos
there.
to her. Discrete math. Very impressive.
Yeah. I think, like, Nathan helped her
y'all was
get
sitting,
through
Nathan and Reed. Yeah, and Clemens.
Yeah. And, like, I think that was, like, she had a study group, and that was definitely a big help for Lisi. Though she's very smart math-wise, it's just, like, it was definitely not, like, your run-of-the-mill math class. It was tough. It was tough. Anyways, I was going to meet Mary-Lise at Clemens, because she was there with a study group for the discrete math class.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, there comes Daniel, like, just walking toward me, like, kind of, there's, like, a group of people, and then Daniel just emerges, and I felt like I was, like, meeting, like, a character from a book. It's true! And so Daniel, he shook, we put out his hand to shake my hand, and he started talking about, like, the hot air balloon company we had back in the 70s.
Yeah, don't you remember that?
And,
we sold sushi.
Right, and, like, well. The peacock feathers, did I still have the peacock feathers and all these things, like...
I was a little disappointed when you said you didn't, but it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah, and so I just played along. Thought it was really hilarious. And, that
play
was...
along? What? You don't...
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, well, that's fine. Yeah,
play along, right? Like, fine. What about our hot air balloon company?
Yeah, it's okay. Boy can have dreams.
Baskets are lined
Boy can
with
have dreams that pop. Boy can have...
And so, that was the first time that Daniel and I met, which was in a library, discussing our hot air balloon company we had back in the 70s.
Yeah. Good music back then. You had your Led Zeppelin. They knew that they were in the hot air balloon thing too, right? It was all over their album covers. I mean, Pink Floyd. I mean, that was an age for sushi. Yeah, it was the time to sell it when you were full of hot air. It was really a good time for that. Worked out great.
Yeah, so that was special.
What?
And I remember, like, probably the second, not like maybe the second or third time I feel like I had seen you kind of around, because you're very iconic, Daniel. It's like the oversized, gray coat, and the Timberlands and the toothpick in your mouth. It's just very iconic.
Goodwill had a sale.
So that was great. Like, I remember thinking, like, oh, yeah.
Why is that guy in the tree?
Yeah,
why is he in the tree?
In a dining hall.
Why is he up there? What is he doing?
He had that, like, he was reading something, always reading something. For the most part, unless you were walking.
So he doesn't mention it was Calvin and Hobbes, but that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
No wonder Haven loves that now. Our son.
Indeed.
Our oldest son. Yeah, so...
Daniel, when we assigned Calvin and Hobbes, we meant the theologian and the philosopher, not the tiger and the little boy. Oh, well, I want my money back. This is ridiculous. I'm here to learn.
Yeah, but like the second or third time I saw you was again at Clemens Library.
Yeah, because I lived there. I slept there quite a bit.
Yeah.
The poor janitor would come at about 5 a.m. and be like, "Oh, it's a little homeless boy. Let me put a trash bag blanket over him."
Trash bag blanket.
It was very, because he puts the couches together and you just sleep. I mean, that was stupid, but you could do it. It was a way to get.
And he did, and Daniel did it.
And he
like
did
he
with his oversized blanket coat. That's why it was oversized, because I needed it to also be a blanket. That's why it needed to be 2 times too big. But yeah, it was at Clemens, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so this, one of the next times that I spoke to you, you were dressed up for the Jefferson Society,
Yes.
Of the debating society, and so you're dressed up like in a suit and tie and
a gown. I had a gown. Yeah, no.
Like one of those like old time wigs, man wigs.
Yeah, Cinderella. If you've seen it, you know.
So I remember talking to you, and the topic of economics came up.
Yes,
and
it did.
I remember you relating it to sort of like a faith system, and how we sort of have to believe in the value of money for it to work, because it's a kind of a symbol, Anyway, so I was listening to you talk, and I'm not sure, I probably asked some questions, and I remember thinking like, oh man, like this guy goes from like talking about hot air balloon companies in the 70s to like talking about economics and like faith system, and like I just had never had that thought, So I was like really intrigued, and then I just spoke to you, and then darted off, or you had to dart off. One of us had to dart off. I don't know. Yeah, Jefferson Society. So
I fell on the ground and covered myself with my oversized coat. Like, I have to go! And I didn't vanish. So it was really anticlimactic. I just kind of crawled away and hoped you didn't see me. So I vanished. Worked really well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was a first year. This is,
Yes.
our university calls it first year, not freshman. So first year, Daniel was a second year at the time. And yeah, I mean, that was 2008.
Yes, it was.
And yeah, from there, like I guess for me, like I had to go find Daniel, because or email him, set off a flare.
I paid attention to I always watched the horizon. I would have picked up on flares. I had my eye to the sky.
Yeah, but I always knew, like, I always could go find Daniel and ask him I'm always a loaded question, so I always liked asking Daniel questions about stuff, and he would be very generous in talking with me about things. And the thing is that we ended up, having overlap in some of our classes, because we both have, double majors, I suppose, but one of them that we have in common is English.
Yes.
Or like literature,
Yes.
English.
Yes.
So, I remember bumping into it in one of those gigantic lectures.
Yes.
And trying to get in. There was like a beach ball being like passed around that time.
383.
I still remember what I was wearing that day. I remember specifically wearing my purple pants. I know that.
Well, I remember what I was wearing because I wore the same
Well,
thing.
yes, I know. Daniel's very worn jeans, Levi's, your oversized coat, Timberlands,
those were from wrestling camp.
Daniel had like a uniform, man.
It saved decisions in the morning.
This is still true, folks. If you want to know,
The morning,
he's got a uniform.
there is not time to waste in the morning. Put on your oversized coat. And the beautiful thing with an oversized coat is if you forget your shirt, you can just button and cover it. It works out great. It's really, really convenient. But that was 383. That was the modern English class with Cushman and Levinson.
That's right. Everyone wanted in on that class, and I remember.
Well, they were good teachers.
Yeah,
they were very good.
I remember kind of seeing you and like trying to find a seat, and they were passing around like a clipboard about like trying to get on the wait list and such. I don't know if I ended up getting in that lecture slot. Actually, I don't remember.
I don't believe you did, and I cried
so.
many tears.
Oh, Daniel. So
Many
yeah.
tears.
We did have that. We did have the class where it was on 18th century literature.
No, that's fourth year. That's way. That's when the flames
ahead.
came. That's when the darkness was impenetrable.
Well, yeah. So, anyways, my first year, Daniel's second year. We had.
Yeah, and it should be noted, you have to take 381, 382, 383.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just 2, but I think it was like you had to take all 3 actually.
No, you had to take all 3. Not you take them over the span of a couple of your first years.
Yeah, and I took 382 first, my first year, second semester, and then 383, and then I delayed 381 as much as possible.
These classes are huge, like hundreds of people
terrible.
in them, and like they centered around like the Norton anthologies of literature.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, definitely interesting. I mean, I definitely, to me though, and I think I told you this. I mean, you know about this because I talked to you about it many times. But like, my real interest in moving toward English was my class, Motherhood and Literature, which was like a very small class, 7 women, 7 other girls, and like the TA, Tate, who was a very, very, very interesting and cool person, very strong personality, tiny, dynamite. Yeah, so, but I remember talking with you about that, like, very specifically. I remember talking with you about just majors and what I'm thinking about doing, I came into college wanting to do pre-med, so, I was taking all of a lot of science classes, but realized that, like, the large format classes, a lot of those were big lectures, too. And it was just rough. Like, the testing system was, you got, like, these 4 or 5 multiple choice questions as your whole test, and I just didn't do quite that well with that, to be honest.
I hate the test structure. I despise it.
I was like, multiple choice, really? Like, I feel like I'm being, like, tricked or something. I don't know. I mean, it's probably simple for people who it clicked, but like,
I hate multiple choice.
I just didn't. Yeah, that was.
I hate multiple choice. I would always like reason myself out of the answer. I hated multiple choice. I always felt like multiple choice was testing to failure, as opposed to giving you a space to show what you know.
Yeah,
I think it's important that classes give a space for students to show what they know, not what they don't know.
Right.
Because there's always infinitely more you don't know than do. So if you're testing to that, it's just probable you're going to fail people. Yeah, I think the way they do pre-med very often is one of the reasons why you have a crisis of healthcare workers now. But that's another subject. So anyway, I mean, very often those intro classes are kind of testing you to fail or different things. And also they can feel very dehumanizing or very, like, overwhelming in different ways. Yeah, so we met in the library. One thing we did at one point is we went to a tree in one of the gardens. So UVA has these different gardens, and there was one tree that was super cool. And I may have invited you just so that you could see the tree, and there was no other agenda. And that tree was also where there was like a thunderstorm, and you could see the thunder.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that very well, Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And climbing the tree.
Yeah. Which probably wasn't what you were supposed to do. Did that? We got on the didn't we get on the roof of
we did. Yeah,
that was legal.
Yeah,
it's completely legal.
That was kind of right at near the, like, I think the semester was about to end then. And yeah, I remember that very, very well. That going to that garden, that tree, being there with you, the flowers, and I remember there was like this interesting moment where. It's funny because at the time I wasn't very well acquainted with like anime or anything like that. But for whatever reason, and I don't know if it's just now like translating back to that moment, but that moment there were several moments that felt like very scene-like. I don't know how to put it. It's just like seeing you bent down and like picked something up from the grass. And I just remember the lighting and you and the flowers, and it was just like it felt like something like out of an anime now that I know like more about it, but it was just there was something very like of an aesthetic quality. I don't know how to put it, but there was just something very memorable about those times. And also because I was with you, and it always, like, when I had the chance to find you with my if I got you by carrier pigeon or
I didn't have a cell phone, so people,
this is why I probably should explain that. If I got to find you, then it was always an adventure, and so that it was always just very, just totally amazing. It was just like amazing experience, and like you just, like I said, a character from a book. So it was like, it felt like that was what was playing out every time we'd kind of be adventuring around and experiencing the world or what was around us. And we actually did go on an adventure, which you asked me to.
I asked you if you wanted to go on an adventure.
Yes, you did. And that's like co-term for like a date, but I just saw it as an adventure.
It was an adventure. That's right.
That was really fun. We went downtown in the city.
We walked
downtown. Yeah, we took like back roads and back streets.
The back roads were more fun. There's vines on that one wall that were quite pretty.
Yeah. And yeah, we went to like this restaurant, and we had a really great waiter who I still remember his name.
Yeah.
Remember talking to him about like his dreams, and then like we give him a huge tip.
He was a nice guy.
It was really fun. I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it started raining on the way back.
It did. It did. And
I remember kind of, you know, then sort of like, I remember I was heading to like an intervarsity event or something after that.
The Christmas thing, IB.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, anyways, so that was a really fun adventure.
It was. And I kissed you under the streetlight.
Ah, yes, you did.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, that was your first year, my second year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure was. Was it that you were going to IV, or were you actually leaving for the summer? No, you were going to the Christmas thing.
I just feel like I remember specifically seeing Marilise and Reed and other people from university.
Yeah, it was that Christmas thing they do. It's like 200 days before Christmas.
But that's like earlier on in the semester. This was some other...
Okay.
Or maybe it was like the actual Christmas party at the end of the year. It could have been that.
Maybe it was. Because it was in the house at the behind barracks, right? Yeah. Not barracks, Vice. Vice. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember going to that.
Yeah, that was my first kiss, son.
It's pretty amazing.
It was.
Oh.
So it was that. We also, at that time, my grandmother's house was on Washington Street. So yeah, we were under the stars in the back of the house. We were looking up at the stars, I recall that.
Yeah, I remember that so well. You know, being in Mammy's backyard and looking up at the stars. I remember you asking me, you asked me in that moment, like, what's something you fear? And I remember really specifically you asking that, because you were laying on the grass, I was laying in the grass, just like kind of separately looking up at the stars, but somewhat near. I remember, like, you know, you could maybe like reach my foot or something.
Well, I wanted to be near.
I feel like you at one point like held my ankle for a brief moment. And I was like, oh, that was, you touched my ankle.
Yeah, I was being risky.
That's hilarious. But yeah, you asked me like, what's what do I fear? What's something I fear? And I remember saying like that I won't know what love is, or something like that.
Right.
And I just, I feel like you taught me what love is.
Well, that's sweet.
But it's true.
It's sweet.
It's very true, Daniel. So I'll never forget that.
So I remember that. So yeah, there used to be a garden back there, and we left through the fence at the gate.
I remember that so well. I remember just being in like your white Nissan Altima that's like 100 years old.
Yeah.
And like you had that star with a smiley face that you had in like the middle of the car. And I just remember going with you. I don't remember exactly like. I just remember being like, like I said, like I always was up for hanging out with you because you're so unique and so fun and so adventurous. So I was like, yeah. And just like I just remember listening to things that you would share with me about all sorts of things, philosophy, theology, writers, biographies of people, and it was like super interesting. Well, so anyways, we went to Mammy's house.
We did.
And
backyard.
Yeah, I remember that very well. Like just going through the house with you, like that. There's those closets that like, you know, are kind of enclosed by like the ceiling itself of the house on the upper levels. And then being in the backyard and looking up at the stars. And it's just neat to think like that's where, you know, you and your brothers would go with Mom.
Yeah, when we were very young. Very young. So we did that. And this was 2008.
Yeah, I think so.
2008.
Yeah.
So it was that, a lot of adventures in the library. There was one time where we went out to the lawn together when Nathan and Reed and all them, Marilise, were at Clemens. So we did that. We did another adventure. So and also too, you know, we had a bunch of classes overlap, which may or may not have been coincidence. So, you know, it was good. Well, you're just, life is good. You know, life is worth living for you. So that's a very rare quality. And there's a rare aura that comes with that is sacred and important. So that's very attractive. So we did a number of adventures. And then, so I think we did one day where we went to the Nook again. Then we came back and you were leaving for the semester at some point in there. And then you went to Spain.
Yeah, I went to Spain my second semester.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think now, Daniel, because somewhere in there, in the kind of early to mid years there, I remember that I started to call you brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I called you brother. That's what I called you.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, just to be clear, like, we had this adventure, a kiss, but we were friends. We had not really ever made any sort of
no
clarity there on that in terms of I mean, I don't like the term necessarily, but determine the relationship or anything like that. It was really just that we knew one another and we're very very special relationship. So but yeah, I mean, I called you brother, because...
And you dated other people.
Yeah, I did date other people.
Yeah.
And Daniel was the loving, patient soul. No. And it was funny though, because like even in those early years, I remember having very distinct. It's hard to put it. It's kind of like Daniel's work. So much. But one of the things that like really struck me about Daniel was like just so many things. Like I said, just completely unique individual, and he did photography for a long time. So he had like these albums of photography, and I just remember looking through these photos and just being like, oh my gosh, so stunning. And there's like this ability to capture a vision. And then of course Daniel had his writing, which always intrigued me, that he started at a young age. And I remember the distinction between dreams and visions that you made. And it's funny, like even, I don't know, now we're like beyond 10 years now later, like do I really understand more about why that matters so much? But I mean, I think that I think that the vision is something that I always saw you have, and that was really appealing. And anyways, I think I understood better what that meant because of you and through you. And so even in these younger years of knowing each other, where there was clearly some sort of very special connection between us, but I didn't, I was 18, just kind of like, oh, I'm in college, I want to be free, I want to just and there's so much newness happening right now, so meeting so many hundreds of new people,
right.
And I felt that that's kind of where, I ended up, basically deciding that, in those younger years of like, I just want to be free, open right now, or free, or like, I don't know if I would say it's free, but I didn't want any, something very strongly committed. I was 18, just started college. I didn't really know exactly what I was doing with my major even yet, or what that would entail. Right. And so I think that for me, there was really no desire to rush into any type of like commitment. No, but you never ever put that pressure on me at all, at all. And so there was just this patient friendship that you extended to me. And that was, truly, truly beautiful and very special, because it's hard to do that, especially if you know or recognize that connection earlier on, and maybe want to do something about that, but you always really kept an open hand, So anyways, I knew though then that there were times when I would really, really have a very strong vision of us, like that we would know each other for the rest of our lives. And I was like, maybe we'd be writers, or as it went on, where it started to become clear that my interests were more in line with humanities and writing and arts versus pre-med. It's like, maybe we'll just like be, we'll have our work and that will keep us connected forever and such. And so those things would come to mind, but it's so funny because, it was really ultimately a connection that would be marriage ultimately. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's truly incredible to look back and think on, our story, because, another thing that's so interesting is that, we are such good friends, and I literally called you brother, really coming from this idea of like being brother and sister in Christ, in our faith. And so it was like, it was just so interesting because it goes from a friendship to, it's just so unconventional, because it was kind of like, in some ways, yes, we knew each other, we were getting to know one another, etc. There was nothing like mainstream dating really that we did, because it was like basically almost like going from being friends to deciding to get married, ultimately. Which was ultimately that's many years later, but it's just very, it's just such a different type of trajectory. But I think in some ways, because we genuinely were friends, and I think that was very important, because then you really, really get to know the person, and sure, there's always things that you're yet to learn, right? But I think it kind of put the focus more on understanding how like who is this person that I'm getting to know. Yeah. And never thinking about it in terms of prospects per se. Just thinking about it in terms of who is this person? How are they with other people? Right. How do they view life? How do they engage with the world?
Oh yeah.
So anyways, that was, I went on and on there.
No. But... Well, I mean, what can happen in some conventional like dating is there's a framing of people that changes how they behave, and they're not who they are, or they're playing a role. In that, and roles always go away with time, especially when life gets going. And I think sometimes when you can have that conventional structure, I mean, the thing is with the freedom, as difficult as that can be, because there's a temptation to capture, the freedom allows reality. Because if someone is there because they're like, oh, we're in a relationship, well, there can be a kind of obligatory spirit. And the person has to come to the place where they freely relate, or they freely see that, and they freely go through the process of realizing that on their own. And the issue is, if the kind of dating relationship is too early, then there can always be the question of if that process was authentic, or if it was contrived or somehow stained by the dating. Now, it should be noted, it's more of what's being said here is not that you don't see each other or do things together or don't, have meals together or whatever. You certainly do the things of dating, because how else would you know them? But there's a quote unquote danger of kind of the language of dating, or framing it in your mind of dating. Yeah,
because I mean, you don't, in the way that we operated and oriented ourselves toward one another, there was no possession.
No.
It was not possessive at all. There was no sense of like insular relating. It was actually quite the opposite, where it was very much, our relating to each other was often very much in the context of communal, communal relations. Now, we did have times where we would go walk in a garden, or just talk with one another at length, I mean, at length about lots of different subjects, or go to the diner, or, the tavern. But, we, Daniel and I, would often, like, Daniel would have these kind of like regular meals, and then eventually it became, with Unoya, like where people would regularly meet at this community center. And so a lot of our, it just was not, it was really not possessive. There was nothing about,
there was regular interaction without any possessive framing.
Exactly.
Because a lot of people, when they hear, like, are you saying don't date? In their minds, that means don't interact. Or
well, and I wouldn't even say, like, oh, don't date. I just think that dating now, the mainstream dating is it has so many problematic things about
assumptions, presuppositions.
Yeah. It's hard. It's very difficult. I don't.
Sure.
I'm not going to pretend to know what's the best thing to do.
And I don't mean to say either.
Yeah, but the thing is that I think what the main thing is, I think it's really redemption for. I think it's sad to me, and I understand why people would feel this way, because there's frustration, frustrated desire, frustrated hopes and dreams and such of having a partner, a relationship, or a marriage one day. But like, even the term the friend zone is very reflective of how we have a very sad orientation toward like developing genuine friendship, and kinship, not kinship. Well, it's kinship in a faith sense, right? We, with this idea of brotherhood, sisterhood, but this friendship is a very beautiful space, and it can only be thought of as defeat in the modern dating schema, right? It's you're just friend zoned, and it's just like that doesn't. That's because friendship has terms of not possession.
That's right.
And you have to accept that, though.
Yes.
And that can feel hard because we always want to get what we want,
Absolutely.
And this teaches you to be in a place of holding the space for not really, like, ultimately
the bird in the open hand.
Yeah, exactly. Like, to keep it open, to not be possessive, to have genuine care toward the person, but not, demand really anything of them beyond if they genuinely want to relate, to allow that, basically,
Absolutely. Well, would you really want to marry someone who you haven't gone through the process of forming a deep friendship with? And people would say, of course not. But you see, the problem is, if you introduce the possession, it can kind of hurt or can possibly impede the assuring that there's a friendship there, or the blossoming of the friendship, or letting the friendship unfold on its own terms, not being kind of forced in a certain direction. Also, what can happen with dating, there can be a kind of separation, whereas in friends, you're hanging out with lots of people at Eunoia. You're not pulling people apart, or, there can be this kind of, they need, time together alone in different things. And there's something to be said for that, but there can also be a moralization of it. And really, you want the person you're with, or, to also have the same friends as you, to kind of resonate with people like you resonate, and know the people you're friends with and have interactions with. Yeah. Otherwise, there can be kind of some strange blockage that can occur. So no, processes of friendship development are very important. But of course, those come with the difficulty of not possessing the person. Yes. And then they can do what they do. And one has to go through that process. But that's necessary, because then you also find out if you mean it. Like, I mean, when I saw you, I thought you were the most beautiful person I'd ever seen. So, I mean, it's true. I mean, it was just completely a vision. From first time.
Thank you.
But
that's very kind of you.
And so you have to, but you also have to say, well, how do I know? You have an apprehension that you say this one, you go this one. But if you go, I know it's this one, right? Well, then you'll start being possessive, as opposed to saying this is a vision. And beauty is much, that's a full way of life. That's you were not, you were just completely, utterly beautiful in every aspect. If one is asked to explain why a cathedral is beautiful, all one can say is because it is the cathedral. There's a whole to it that can't be reduced to parts. And that was, to me, right, at the start. And that's, and my intentions were clear in kissing you on that first adventure. But although those intentions were shown, there's also this thing you have, I guess for me, where it also has to be clear that it's not an expectation. And that's kind of a weird thing, because you want to make clear an opening, but also not make it feel like an expectation. And that's possessive. And figuring out what that looks like is not easy. I think it has to be worked out in the actual lived experience. Because if the person doesn't know, well, then they don't know that there's that, interest, you could say. Mm-hmm. But then if the interest becomes an expectation, it kind of spoils. And also, too, for me, you're like, you have a strong sense that, people say this is the one, but you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so you have to hold the bird with an open hand.
Yeah.
You don't let the bird go. You say, well, I don't know. So you let the bird fly off. But you also can't, to use your great metaphor, you can't hold the bird by the legs.
Yeah.
Because if that occurs, the bird can't return on its own.
Yeah. And
if the bird can't return on its own, then you can't know it's authentic. And also, there's always going to be what could have been, what could have been, what could have been. And that happens to people. So it's this interesting navigation between, showing a kind of openness, but also not possession. I guess that's how I thought about it. Whether it was well done or not, God can tell me. You can tell me. But that, I guess, is how I thought about it.
Well, it was very well done, because then it never felt like some sense of, like you're saying, never felt like a sense of obligation at all. But there was always a space there. You offered yourself as a place, right? To be received. I mean, just to be received, to be listened to, And so, in that way, it was always like, you knew if I came to find you wherever you would be, in the library or, at Unoya, like, it's because I wanted to. It's because I wanted to talk to you, And so, that's what, I would do. And like you're saying, with the openness, but you still have your hand, right? Like,
you have to put yourself in the place where you can be found.
Exactly.
You have to go there, and you have to wait. And, well, for me, there's something about, like, if I'm consistently at Alderman or consistently at Clemens, or I'm every Tuesday having a meal here, or, at one point then it got to be Unoya, well, then you knew it, and then our other friends knew it.
Yeah.
So there wasn't like a call like, hey, I'm at the library, can you come hang out? Because the moment that occurs, I'm not saying that's always bad, but the moment that occurs, the dynamic is different. It can be different. But that means also that you have to plan your day and think about what you're doing, so you're in those consistent places. Which then, of course, there's a kind of, you don't get to be in other places. There's a sacrifice of experience, if you will. But there's really no other way to, I don't know if there's another way to get the dynamic. There has to be that consistency. That creates a different way of being, I'd say.
Right.
But yes, so that all happened, and then I guess it was summer vacation. Was it summer? No, it's something where you went to Spain and then it was straight to summer. Right?
Yeah.
So it really sucked.
Well, this was back in the day of, like, we're not talking smartphones. Like, we didn't have a smartphone until, like, we have one phone that we, that I'll use for
Instagram now.
Yeah, basically. And that's like, that was only maybe 2015 or something, Sure. So all these days, like, I mean, I didn't really use a cell phone very much either. I had one, but it was like a flip phone, or like it was like one of those.
That was definitely a
T9 words. Like, it wasn't a smartphone.
That was definitely a feather in your cap. Not having to see, like, that was a positive thing.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I wasn't really ever quick to get one or use it very much. Of course, I had it when we were in college to call my parents and such things.
Sure.
But, like, when I went to Spain, oh gosh, it was even, like, they were a little behind technologically.
Sure.
I got a little Nokia phone. I still remember the little jingle, like, from the Nokia cell phone. Mary-Lise and I went to Spain, Valencia, for a semester to study abroad, and had a really incredible time. Lived with a host mom there, lived together in Spain. And, but, like, I mean, this Nokia phone wasn't an international, so, like, you had to set something up on Skype. So I don't even know if I called I talked to my parents pretty regularly, but, like, I don't know if I talked to them but a handful of times, like, to let them know we got there. It wasn't easy to call, to call internationally, and we weren't using smartphones. There wasn't just endless access to Wi-Fi like there is today. So basically, it was kind of like, Daniel and I didn't really see or talk to each other for
Yeah, and I
quite a
didn't
while,
call
like
you,
three-quarters of the year.
Yeah, and I didn't call, I didn't call anyway. Just
Daniel's
email.
not gonna call either.
Well,
but like you email.
Yeah, because calling can create, that can inhibit freedom. It can inhibit and create kind of like, oh, you didn't call me, or I call you. There's always an issue. There's trade-offs with calling.
Yeah.
I would email you.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of off in my little.
Well, but no, you should be off, because you're in Spain, right? I mean, that's the other thing that can happen. I think, where like that's a special experience, right? And you want to be immersed in it.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, like, being present in the place, I never felt like your mode of being in the world is always, like, presence. So it always encouraged me to be present, because it's not like I had somebody kind of being like, oh, you haven't gotten back to me in this many days, or blah, blah, blah. It wasn't like that at all, It was utter just sheer, allowance and freedom to sort of be wherever I was, And I remember Spain. Again, to mention, like, I did date other people. There are other people who showed interest, or I would, have.
I can't blame them.
Well, oh, Daniel, you're too kind. You're too kind, Daniel.
That's
Thank
true.
you. But there were other people who would show interest, or I would start something with, and I don't know. I think for me, like, all of the love feelings, the limerence, all of the flirtation, all of that is like, that for me was always like the most appealing thing. I really couldn't care less for like drugs, alcohol, all of that. No, but like that lighting somebody up, or being like, that is for me was so appealing and so enticing. And so it was hard for me not to feel that, way, or want to indulge in that or enjoy that, in, meeting other guys or having certain relationships. But it's funny, because I remember specifically, like, in Spain, where I was sitting with the guy who, did start to show interest, and I enjoyed spending time with him too. He's very funny football player. Like, it was just, he was from a different university. But anyways, I remember just being like, it was weird. It was like at the very back of my mind, I was just like, Daniel. And I couldn't really explain to you why, but I just felt like this sense of, I didn't feel like I couldn't go, try another type of relationship with somebody else, but I couldn't shake that, like, Daniel, in the back of my mind. But like, even with this, with the guy I was mentioning, I mean, I still sort of ended up starting something with him. It didn't end up obviously working out, but, so what I mean to say is, like, maybe I wasn't always as probably heeding to that as I probably should have been. I probably should have been much more heeding that earlier on. But I did, I learned a lot through, even if I should have, I didn't, and I did still learn things from that. And ultimately, like, at the end of the day, like, I did ultimately come back to what I really felt very deep down inside of myself, about you. And so, and yeah, I mean, even on, like, the first adventure, like, I'll never forget the sense of, like, you will be together and it will be a great responsibility. I remember that. I remember hearing that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. This is like the first couple of months of being in college. We went on this adventure downtown, and I just remember being like, like, I'm just gonna put that on the back burner. Like, I mean, I know that sounds like audacious, or like, I should have been more attentive. I probably should have been, but I just felt like, I'm sure we can do great things, even just, like, apart in our own lives, we'll be doing great things, like, but really, ultimately, like, I think the great thing was for us to be together, and that's what ultimately did transpire and did occur.
That did occur.
And so it's this very interesting place of, like we're talking about, where there's this making space to be a place for one another, to actually engage with each other, but to not ever be possessive, not physical with each other, really. Right. So that was very clear that it was friendship,
Right.
But there was something more there, because there was this deeper connection that we both realized was so special and so unique and worthwhile.
Oh yeah.
So,
well, I can't really blame other guys. I really can't. Well, there's a few things, like, if you're like that, if you go, that's the one. But if you have to hold it with an open hand, we say, well, you don't know. You trust. Yeah. See, that's the thing. I think, like, you trust it and you believe it, and if it's so, then it will come to be the case with time.
Yeah.
Now you have to put yourself in the place where it can. Yeah. Like, people may hear that and they'll be like, well, that's passive and no, stuff doesn't just work out. Well, no, that's why you have to be at the library at the same time in the same place. Yeah. You have to connect emails. You have to invite them on different things. Mm-hmm. Like, no one is saying that you don't disconnect and just wait for something magical to occur. Mm-hmm. You have to put yourself in the places where something can occur without expectation. Mm-hmm. And that's the balance. And I mean, the other thing, when you give off that light, you give off. That's just that's just you. That's gonna attract people. And to your defense, if somebody wants to have a relationship with you, then they're going to interpret what you do as meaning you want it as well. And so people misunderstand signals because they want to misunderstand signals. And so that also becomes difficult. And then you go, well, maybe, and you try, and it's not easy when you have people interpreting, what your personality is interest. And that creates pain and that creates difficulty. And, to your, on the whole idea of coming back around, well, you had to do that. That required a lot of you to do, to your great credit and courage and heroism. So you had to do quite a bit for that to occur.
I don't know if I'm that deserving of those words, but you were the heroic one, Daniel, because you were very patient waiting as I just gallivanted off.
No.
You just patiently waiting, even as I'm like asking you, like, what should I do about this guy or whatever. And you're just like, you just be like, well, you got to pray about it and do what you feel led to do. That's what you would tell me, and you never said one way or the other. Like, you could have just been like, no, like, I have, you could have put your position forward of like what you wanted, and you didn't. You would just allow me to, to learn from my, whatever they are. I mean, in some ways, like, yes, you could see them as mistakes, but they ended up being part of the story. Yes, so yes. I did learn from them, and I learned a lot about you too, because of your, very extremely generous patience and understanding. And so, that for me was huge. And I think, that was, I'm just thinking about like how ultimately that was very attractive to me. And that recognition of just knowing that, like, seeing through the things that are problematic about me, like seeing how there's something beneath that's truly, like, for me, I think, like I said, the appeal of flirtation, limerence, and love, the loving love and all of that is because I love for people to feel loved. Right. I love that so much. I wanted people to know how much they're loved. Right. And that's where it always came from. Right. But that obviously gets very confusing when it comes to, when you have attraction, sexual attraction, or, interest, it can be very confusing. And I can get caught up in that as well, because obviously there's also the part of it where you can benefit from it, right? You can feel loved, you can feel, you can receive the affection, you can receive that, and that feels so good, you know? And so that's where it can become a very slippery slope of like, something that is good can get caught up in your own selfish wants. And, but you always saw the good in me. And that was really, made me so grateful. And, it's just truly humbling, honestly, really. But I think like another thing that to me that was just like, just to kind of, just to share something else that I just love like so much about you is the way that you saw the best in everybody, really. Like, you would always see just the utmost best in people and bring that out in them.
Well, that's sweet of you to say. It's not hard to see the good in you.
Oh gosh. Oh.
Not hard to see the good in you.
Yes, it is.
Not hard at all.
Yes, it is.
Not hard at all. No, so... Yeah, so we had those, like, dinners at, Newcomb.
Yeah.
That was it. The
Good on
diner.
Newcomb.
Yeah, on the outside sometimes was Tuesday, and you'd have a bunch of different friends there. So yeah, we'd have those meals at Newcomb, and these extraordinary people, Arun and Vincent and my Brad and Nathan and Reka and oh my goodness, Jason, Arthur, oh my goodness, just Sagufta, Arun,
Manya,
oh my goodness,
these special people.
yeah, I could keep going. It's one of those things where you want to name them all. You want to name them all, and how do you even begin? Truly extraordinary people. We were talking about the library. Nathan and I, we had like a man. Boom, every day. Man, I always respected that dude. He works so hard. Nathan, Alderman, and, Nathan C., I'll say. And he just works so hard. At Alderman and Clemson. And then so let me see. I met you your first year, my second year. Then you went to Spain. Third year. Third year we had a few classes, like the British modern literature.
We had Wolfar's class.
Was that fourth year though? My fourth year.
Maybe in your fourth year.
You ended up graduating early because you're smart. So we ended up graduating together.
Should have saved money.
Well, hey, that's smart. So, we had a Wolfark. That was great.
That was great.
I had that. I think we had. Did we have that? The great legendary. Goroyan class on Flannery O'Connor.
I never had the fortune of a class on.
Okay. Did we sit in that after you graduated? There were a few things we did. Like I did the Divine Image with Wilson.
I remember sitting in a couple of times with Wilson and with Professor Wilson. Yeah. And Gordon we saw on the train.
Yeah, that's right. So there was all that. Then as this is going on, there's getting Unoyer together.
Yeah.
With Evan and Nicole and Matt, Brother 12. Bernard Hankins, turning it into a kind of an art, interested in, what is the gospel composers and the artist, kind of wasn't the mention of it, as it would the church that would meet there on Sundays, and then we had open mics on Thursdays. So that was all going on. We had meals every Thursday, and Jessica would come, Mama Jess, and fix all these different things, and Nick and Ben and Christina, goodness. We're walking down memory lane, aren't we?
Yeah.
So my goodness.
It's so crazy, like talking about the sacred, just because also the people that we got to know are just such incredible people, just fascinating, funny, just such special people. We're so blessed to know so many great people and have the fortune to meet people who just really show a whole new
level. Oh yeah.
Or just on a whole new level,
just in life, not just in life, not just like we're not just talking intelligence. Intelligence is overrated. It truly is. Life, and this is the part where I could start telling some of the stories that may not have been legal with. I can't even give the name, can I? But we did a lot of night adventures onto... And then Evan... Gosh. Keenan.
Evan was one... I think I met Evan the night I met you.
Yeah.
Because at the library.
Oh, we worked a lot together.
Yeah.
Friedrich. Gosh, darn it. Those, after we graduate, later on I'd have those walks with John. So I'm avoiding last names for privacy, but those were some tremendous walks. So anyway, I think, Zoom you once over the summer.
Skyped or something?
Skyped. I sat at the garage. Mm-hmm. I went to China.
Yeah,
I Skyped you in the, I Skyped you in the lobby of a hotel, I think. So I did have that call and the other call that one time.
Mm-hmm. And you would also, invite Mary-Lise and I to the farm adventures.
Yes, we did yearly, semesterly farm adventures with different
Those were
people.
fun.
That was good. Yeah. So I went to China. I taught English for a few months in the Sichuan province, 4 hours outside of Chengdu, Guanyuan.
Mm-hmm. What year was that?
First, no, couldn't have been. It was summer. It was a summer. It may have been the summer between my second and third year.
Mm.
Maybe it was when you were in Spain. Or, well, came back from Spain and then it was summer break. Something.
You went over the summer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They don't usually let you, because it was not like a semester at sea or whatever. It was an additional thing, and that was cool. LW, Joy, Pat. Gosh, I love those people. That occurred. There was one time where I helped you leave BICE. Yes, third year. So people are wondering when the OG Rose starts. That's not till like fourth year or after you graduate. So
yeah, sorry guys.
because that's way late. That's way later.
Now I remember we were in the back of Unoya. We sat on the porch, like on the stoop or at the back for a lot of time. Spent time with Bernard and.
Well, I was about to say there was that one time where I finally saw you again after the Spain in summer, and you ran up the sidewalk in your yellow.
I remember that.
With your boots.
Oh yeah.
I gave you a big hug.
Yeah.
And then we sat on the steps next to you of Unoya. I recall that being a great moment.
Yes, that was lovely. And I did I sing you a song that night?
Yes.
I thought I sang to you. I was like, I want to sing.
You did. You sang a song. I recall that.
Mm-hmm. I remember that really well.
I remember that. I think that was the semester where I helped you leave BICE. So there was, I helped you leave BICE, and there was other things. That's when it started snowing.
Yeah, I remember you helped us pack up, and my parents were there,
Yeah.
Mary-Lise and I, and we were packing up, and then, as we were driving away, it started snowing.
It turned out to be the biggest snow in
and
Virginia.
that was snowpocalypse in Virginia.
And I got snowed in until, Christmas Eve. For, a week and a half, I was up in Brown. You had to leave through the window.
Oh,
there were deer on the lawn. It was completely nuts. I remember that so vividly. Because I was like, oh, it's snowing. I didn't know it's supposed to snow. Which goes to tell the listener how aware I was of the greater world. It's like, it's snowing? Yes, Daniel, it's the snowopocalypse. There were 80 wrecks between Charlottesville and Lynchburg. So I just went, but to me, it was great. You'd sit in your office and write, do things. Because at that point, it was a lot of Usilio. I remember that. So it was that. But, so we go ahead. Is there any other episodes or different things? I mean, there are some, but, there were lots of episodes.
Yes, Michelle is crazy.
No.
I'm crazy, listeners.
I did not mean it. No,
I am legitimately crazy. No, it's true. It's really true. It's kind of scary.
No, there were episodes, but
I worked as a secretary.
You did
at the art building.
Yes, and I would come every Friday, and you would not always be glad to see me.
I'm a very mean person. Kind.
No.
God bless Daniel.
No. There were other individuals who wanted to see you as a secretary as well. I couldn't blame them.
Daniel.
I couldn't blame them.
Gosh.
And I was throwing you off. I was throwing you off.
I'm horrible.
No.
I am.
It's not true.
It's true.
Not true. The most beautiful person I've ever seen.
Oh gosh.
Knew it from the
Daniel,
moment I saw
stop.
it. It's true. It's absolutely true.
Horrible. I should be
No.
climb into a hole.
No. Don't say that.
You're very kind. You would visit me at the art building, and I loved that. I loved that job, being a secretary at the art building.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot there. And I enjoyed when you would come to visit, and sometimes multiple people would show up at the same time.
Yes, I would.
And they'd be like, "Oh, hi guys." So that was interesting.
Michelle was sought by many.
Stop! No.
Of course you were.
Stop,
Honey, of course
Daniel.
you were. Of course
Please.
you were.
You were like the untouchable man. It was like, it's Daniel. He's like a myth. He doesn't No one can date him because he's like a mythical creature.
No.
Everybody wants to date him, but they don't know if like they can learn his like elven language to speak to him.
Come on, now. Come on.
It's true, Daniel. It's true.
Come on, now. Come on. No, so you would be visited.
Yeah.
And let's see, 4th year. So I graduated, and
you graduated, and then you stuck around.
Yeah, I lived in Unoya, baby.
Woohoo!
Lived in my car. Lived in Unoya. You silly. I digress. I had work to do.
Daniel. Just for the record, Daniel is one of the most disciplined people I've ever met in my life.
No.
He's working on his projects. I mean, I have to say it. It's true because it's true.
You're sweet.
But anyways, Daniel. Well, I love you and like you and Vincent's whole deal with the books. When Daniel and a dear friend Vincent made a.
So Vincent.
Tell us about it, Daniel. Tell us about it.
I was outside of Brown in my oversized coat, toothpick and boots, and Vincent said something like, "I'm thinking about just taking 12 credits next year." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, and then I'll take 12 credits, and my goal would be to read 200 pages a day." And he's like, "Can you imagine like how smart you'd be if you read 200 pages a day?" And that was like the coolest idea I'd ever heard. I was like, "Oh my gosh. Yes!" So, I guess after I graduated, and because I had the business, and I did some other, like, sound editing, I did some other different things, with photography and et cetera, and so I just was like, I'll write and I'll try to read 200 pages every day. Because I just thought that was a great goal. Because if you don't, I just like, well, if you don't do it now, you're never going to read these books. Mm-hmm. You're never going to do it. You're never going to have time. So that was basically what I did. Mm-hmm. I did that for the summer. And I cut I took care of the building, and there was different responsibilities, And, Bernard, the great, legendary, masterful Bernard, and I would do work together. He's extremely hardworking, brilliant individual.
Yes. Please check out
Bernard's work. Did a lot of work together. So I was there over the summer. I also felt like I was supposed to be there as well. I felt like I was supposed to be there because if I was not there, then, a part of it was, if I was not there, it was not possible to have that dynamic between us.
Where I could find you?
Yes, where you could find me. And if indeed I still had no reason to conclude that the original assessment was wrong. Now I didn't know with certainty, but I had no reason. I had no reason to think that original apprehension was wrong.
Right.
And if that was not the case, then there were two questions. If you left, then you were saying you were wrong, or it would have to become possessive. And it didn't feel like it was supposed to be possessive.
Right.
And it wasn't, because you still had to go through some becoming, you could say. So that required me to be in a place where the process could continue. But it wasn't just that. Because if it was just that, then it could become problematic. There was also the work. There was also the work, and I was supposed to do the work. I felt like I was supposed to do the work.
The writing?
The writing.
Yeah.
And that was a great place to do it.
Once you found a shower.
Yeah, I did go through that entire summer not knowing about showers. So I did a lot of bucket baths, and I would cut the grass, and the great brother 12 let me use his shower. So it was a miracle. Sometime around August, the great Adam, who I always loved, Sean, husband, and he was an architect, and he walked by Unoya, and I would sit out in front. Because the other thing, I would sit in front where if people saw you, they'd come up and talk. That was a way to meet people, right?
Yeah.
And then you would start bantering or philosophizing, and you'd find out if they liked that sort of thing. And if they did, they would stay, and you could see if you can go from there. If they didn't, they would go, and that was fine. Adam looked at me. He went, "Daniel, have you taken a shower in a while?" I was like, "Why do you ask?" He's like, "Well, you have a beard, Dan." It's like, "No." He's like, "Well, have you?" It's like, "No, No, I have not, Adam. I've been doing bucket baths for weeks. And he was like, man, that's awesome. You know there's a shower in the building next to you, right?
Right, because this community center that Daniel was at,
Right.
was really, really close to the university. So,
They just built this new building called the South Lawn.
Yeah, it was a really nice building.
And the Holy Spirit apparently said, hey, architect, there's going to be some crazy homeless man living sleeping on a cot in a closet for years, for a long time. He's going to need a shower. So add a shower to this building. There's no reason for there to be a shower in this building. Zero. None. Except for, like, people who bicycle and stuff like that.
Yeah, the whole theory was, like, a green building, so it was trying to promote people riding their bikes there and stuff, and that's why they had a shower.
So there's a shower in the basement. And it was a miracle. It changed everything. Truly changed everything. So I found the shower. I never saw anyone ever use that shower, except me. And the janitors were like, there's that crazy homeless boy taking a shower. Well, at least it has a purpose. Yeah.
At least we clean this thing for a purpose.
At least we have a purpose for it. So that was a miracle. That changed everything. And then you were just...
Remember when Mary Lisa and we like all toted like the mattress to your room?
You did, bless me, because I slept on that cot for months.
We're like, no.
Like 7 months, like half a year.
Like, Daniel, you can... Daniel, stop. We're not going to let you sleep on a cot anymore, man.
It was fine. It was a cot.
Well, we upgraded you to a mattress.
You did, because you're saints. So they gave me a mattress.
Yeah.
It was crazy. In a
closet.
That was an amazing place. It was so small. And cold. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, Daniel just wants to sleep in an igloo.
It's cold. It's
like,
so
what?
amazing. So that was that. So that occurred. And I was just doing the work. And, the other thing, so you hadn't, then was the things that happened the first semester. And around the end of the first semester, and what transpired, that was when, you stayed a semester.
Oh, when I graduated?
When you graduated in December.
Yeah, so basically, like, that was really... that was a pretty important time for OG Rose, actually, because, like, for what became OG Rose, because I think it was kind of something that Daniel and I arranged regarding...
Yeah, the writing.
Yeah, and I basically, I was like, I want to edit your work. I want to read your work.
Yeah, there was a point somewhere around your fourth year, maybe after you graduated. It may have been that second semester where you were still around with Mary Lise.
Yeah.
Where you were then like, I'd like to read your work.
Well, yeah, I was like, I want to... I mean, and honestly, like, you like, hired me. There was, like, there was another reason behind it, too, where it was also beneficial for me on that regard, too, which was very kind.
Yes.
So, but I was genuinely very much desiring to read your work, to edit the work.
Yeah.
And I was just, like, I don't know. I guess I just felt this sense of, like, I wanted to read what you had written at length, the full breadth of it, because I knew you had a lot, and I had only maybe read maybe one or two stories, You
did, maybe. And we had that. You asked to read The Reason. Yep. And the girl
drunkard.
And the drunkard, and we had those. And that was.
I read a little bit of
You said it. And we met at that diner.
Yep.
Yeah, for breakfast. I remember that. That was an adventure. That was nice. I do recall that. So you did read those like your third year, second year.
Yeah.
But it was then that you were like, I'd really like to read it. So we set up an arrangement.
And you're like, I need an editor, and
Yeah, and you, boy, how do you tear it to shreds?
Oh my gosh. See, like, Daniel's not really communicating just how horrible I am. Like, I was not nice. And, like, that's weird, because most people are like, oh, she's so sweet, she can never hurt anybody. No, I'm not a very nice person sometimes. And like, I kind of hate that about myself, but you know what? This is complete honesty. And the OG Rose, episode 100.
Yeah.
But it's like, I was, see, the thing is, guys, I read the stories, because this was fiction. Like, we really, like, our work is actually fiction, predominantly.
Yeah, right.
Before all of the nonfiction came. I mean, yes, it was philosophically inclined and backed and everything like that, but it was really fiction, short stories, novels, things like that, plays, and I remember just feeling this, school basically always trains you to get it. You better get it. If you don't get it, then you need to get it. Because if you don't get it, you're not going to get a good grade.
Right.
So basically, that was my mindset reading your work. And I just thought about, like, this was really genuine literature. This is really genuine literature. Seriously, that's what Daniel writes. And so I was like, I don't get it. And I would be almost borderline upset. Like, you better tell me what this means, Daniel. You better tell me what this means, Daniel. Because otherwise I'll hurt you. No, I'm just kidding. But I was like, please tell me what this means. I don't understand. Like, I'm trying to understand the story. And I felt stupid. And that is a vulnerable place where you don't feel like you understand. And yet, like, you were the one who also were being put in a vulnerable place because it's a work you put your blood, sweat, and tears into. And, you're sharing it. Right. And so for me to just kind of be like, no, not this. No, not that. I don't like this. What does this mean? I mean, it's just so weird, guys, because, all these years later, 10 plus years later, I feel like a completely different person. Well, for many reasons, but like, as a reader, I feel like a completely different reader because I embrace ambiguity and I allow myself to sit with it best I can. Not like perfect or something, but it's like I read with the understanding that I actually will not necessarily understand. Certainly not immediately, and that the things that I have yet to grasp are not, they're not there just to frustrate you. They're there to make you think, really make you think, really make you sit with not knowing.
Right.
And so but I didn't have that skill when I read your work initially. So it was a lot of just, and I kind of insisted on us like sitting even side by side and working on stuff. It wasn't a good idea. What we realized was better was for me to read the work separately and then give you the edits. And I would always like, and then I realized pretty early on that I was being kind of heavy-handed with like my corrections and that I needed to be more open. So then I would give them more suggestions because ultimately I was like, well, I don't want to be ruining your stuff. Maybe this, like, because I remember just one comment of like something about, this read really well, like because you would do public reading sometimes at the Jeff Sock. And, it's like, so I knew that people really appreciated it as it was. So it's like, okay, well, I don't want to mess it up with like my editing, but I do want to offer critical, and constructive feedback. So I'll offer these edits as suggestions. I mean, yeah, obviously the grammar stuff that would need to be changed, but like the conceptual edits would be suggestions.
Sure.
And so I would offer those to you and you would look at them over yourself and decide what you're going to incorporate or not.
Right.
And that's how it went. Like, that's what we did with, with the initial stories. And like, that was really our first, basically, rodeo.
Yeah.
And I'm thank God for Daniel's patience with me because, like I said, I wasn't always I didn't have the same sort of like patience, I think, with work, with writing and such, and reading. So.
Well, you had a lot of different things. I mean, The Reason, The Drunkard, Story Without a Title.
The Ornithologist
Who Studied the Stars.
That's
the one. That's the one that you were ready to kill me over. And that's the...
I knew never.
Yeah, I mean, that's a crazy story. That went through about I mean, last time I looked, it was like 32 versions. Because it had to be structured with the italicized and all those different things and different languages.
Like, gosh, I was such a dummy.
No, that story's crazy. But
it was super interesting because it was like, I also had very little philosophical experience. I think that also made it very difficult for me to kind of understand and to grasp what you were really doing, because it was really artful but also philosophical, and I didn't have that skill then. I mean, I hope I've developed a bit more since then.
Oh,
but
absolutely. Well, you did the work. You put in the work.
Yeah, but
I mean, that was your choice. That's to your credit. But you did the work. You decided to get it.
I didn't give up. I didn't.
You did not give up.
Yeah.
That's to your credit. Because you could have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a semester. That was 3, Book 1 of Eusilio, which has now kind of been folded into Hero's Help. It was folded into, because there was a complete, after that, there was quite an explosion of a lot of different short stories I could go through. And then that has probably been folded into Under the Wing, which will entail different ones and different things. But yeah, so that was kind of a start of the writing relationship. And you also would work on maybe a little later. Flashlight was a project that you did readings from and different things. And it was the same process. You would send it to me, I'd send it back to you, so on. So we did that because you had to, so that that was a business arrangement. And, I think then you came back to Charlottesville, and you made that choice to come back to Charlottesville.
Right. Well, here, let's rewind a little bit.
Yes.
Because when I was in my 4th year of college, I spoke to you because that summer I had started to realize a little bit more about wait a second, I think Daniel, I think we're gonna I think we're supposed to get married. I think we're supposed to, I feel like we're gonna be married because I would see you and the word husband would come to mind. Not like boyfriend, not guy, that I'm interested in. No, it was husband. That was the word that would come to mind when I would see you. You would be sitting in front of I would be across the street walking down the stairs from Cabell, Hall, one of the university buildings, and I'd see you and I would hear the word husband, and I would just kind of I'll just put that on the back burner. But at that point, it was we were so much more further along, and I started to really pay heed to that now, more, because it's just so many things kind of just adding up of oh, okay. And so basically, in my first semester of my 4th year, though it's because I'm crazy, I start having all these, big feelings for somebody else and kind of get caught up in another relationship. But I still had the sense of I need to tell Daniel. Well, actually, I didn't really have the sense that I need to tell you about, hey, I think we're going to get married one day. But we took our friend back, Joanna. We drove her back after maybe some event at Genoa or something. And we were in this parking lot and a fire truck blocked off the parking lot. We couldn't go anywhere. So I was like, that's fine with me. I could talk with Daniel for literally hours. I could talk to him for days or weeks or years on end. So I was like, that's no problem for me. So, we talked and I just literally got this it's definitely a Holy Spirit feeling, but it's a tingling sensation of I just can't describe it. It's this outpouring of of telling, of letting of because again, I would talk to Daniel about everything, so I don't know, I felt extremely compelled right then, I don't know, right then and there to be I think we're going to get married one day. And that's what I said. I said, I think we're going to get married one day, Daniel.
Yes, you did.
And he said, I know. so that was hilarious and magical and really funny. And so he's like, yeah, I know. And I just sort of cool. And, we talked a little further. It was pretty special. Conversation. And then, but it's funny because in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, there's still this other guy that I really, really who I like talking to. And, in my head, I'm falling head over heels for this other guy. But, it's I realized, okay, I do know, though, that deep in my heart, I know for many years now, because this has been 2008, this 5 years, the 5 years of this indeed. Friendship developing between us, this sense of us being together forever, for the rest of our lives. And and so finally, Michelle's finally kind of coming around to being maybe I should actually listen to that. Wow. I said, again, I'm pretty horrible. But I did talk to you, and that was that was it. That was when we knew, we were gonna get married, and so there were still things I was working out and having to deal with, and letting go of people, of other human beings who I deeply cared for, felt a love for, was always the hardest thing to do, the absolute hardest thing for me to do in my life, and that was just because I always felt this sense of it's hard to let go. It's hard to let go of things you feel you just so desperately want, right? And you want the person to feel loved, and you like to feel their love, and so that feels hard to let go. But anyways, that it's always a process of letting go over the years of very people who I do very much feel thankful for, that I got to know, and who had a role in this, in my learning process, basically. But yeah, anyways, so we talked about getting married, and then that was my 4th year of college, and the first semester I was in classes, the second I had already, I had no more classes, and that's when I started editing for you. So I think it was a culmination of I remember too having a very intense conversation, tears, all of it, in the garden, probably that same tree maybe that we had seen the lightning by, in these gardens that are at the university we went to, and just feeling like this sense of like I commit to you and the work. I believe in it. I remember saying that. I believe in the work. And so I knew that like in marrying you it would also mean marrying the work too. And so I knew that, and I've always believed in it. I still believe in it. I will always believe in it. And that's what I also said yes to, in saying yes to you. And yeah, I remember that moment very, very, very well. Very well. That moment was very much like a scene too in our story. And so from that point I was like, well, if I'm going to believe in the work, I have to actually put like skin in the game. I have to put myself in it and give my time and my heart into it. And that's when I started to really read the work. And I'm not sure that it was pleasant at first because of like, my lack of skills in many areas, but we persisted, and I think it actually turned out to be a very beautiful dynamic of working together that it's just very hard to describe what it's like, but it's very beautiful. And it's a lot of collaborative ideas. A lot of times, Daniel, he's got the visions, and that's amazing. And I will help give feedback and maybe guidance on maybe what comes to mind, or what things come to mind, or what things aren't clear, but now being actually constructive with what might not be clear, but in a way that is like actually smart. I think I got like smarter with my feedback, to the point where it was like, oh, she's picking up on logical things that would be the logical question next, or what would be like the thing that actually would make sense to ask a question about here. So I think my questions got better. Maybe I would still have more questions, but like that got better. And so I think our dynamic worked out super well and got really a lot better over the years, to the point where it's like a well-oiled machine to work together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. That night with the fire truck and the garden.
Yep.
I mean, for me, it was very important that, you did the work. You did the work, and you followed what you felt was true, and you went through a lot. I mean, you could have given up. You could have given up.
Well,
you did not.
Well, you're always my inspiration on that front, because you went through a lot too.
So yeah, and you came to the place through your hard work, and then, when the Spirit put it on you, you said it.
Yeah.
And that was how it was supposed. That's how it had to be.
Yeah.
And the same with the work. I mean, you had to, come to the place where you wanted to be part of it and do it.
Yeah.
You did, and you did a lot to make that possible, and work to try to, figure out what was right through time to get better. I mean, you could have looked at those stories and been like, this sucks, and I'm done. You could have, and then been self-righteous about it. Yeah, I mean, we all, when we encounter something new, it's very difficult not to have a, hard response. The question is if you stay in that hard response. And that's to your credit. And, the things that with that, like, you would read, I'd send you chapter later on, much later on, chapters that turn the world, and you would read it, and then we'd have conversations about it, and you certainly helped, in essential ways, the dynamics of the story unfold, and that starts to happen, and then you talk about papers, and it goes back and forth, and it becomes very alive, but you have to, do the work, and go through the tearing with the negative, if you will, to be capable of that, and that's what you did, and you didn't have to.
Yeah, but you allowed me into that space, and that was huge, because you've put so much time, so much energy into it, and to allow someone else to come in and see the vision with you is a very difficult thing to do. But you trusted me with that, and that was, it's such an honor to be able to be given the chance to see the vision too.
Well, I mean, you earned that. I mean, you did the work. I mean, you did the work. You stuck through. You went through all these difficult situations and dynamics, and
well, so did you.
Well, we all. I mean, but you didn't have to. You didn't have to, and you did.
I created. I was problematic in creating hardship sometimes.
But people wanted. You can't. People wanted to believe. It's not so simple.
Yeah.
People
sure.
put themselves, on you or different things. So it's not so simple.
Sure, but I know myself. So I it's sometimes like I always remember what you think, or how you would see, like I said, the best and in everybody you would meet, and I don't know. That's always redeeming for me, because I don't always see that in myself, and so it's a reminder that you can be seen in light of the light, and I think with the work, being able to really get involved with that was it's entering like a whole nother world. And I think I really felt strongly about the fact that I couldn't really, if I wanted to know you more, if I wanted to get to know more about who you are, I would need to know this world that you immersed yourself in on a regular, on a daily basis in the writing. And so, yeah, I mean, I think something that I think is important, and maybe other people could maybe, I don't know, I'm not trying to say this as like a piece of advice, but perhaps is whatever somebody's interested in, take an interest in that, because that's a part of their world. That's a part of who they are. And be excited about, not don't like feign it, like genuinely be eager to learn. And you will genuinely have excitement too about what it is that is driving them. But yeah, I think that was really important for me. I just felt like that was something that I wanted to do. I don't know. I sometimes just get something in my head and I feel stubborn about it. But I think there was good reason for wanting to get to reading the work, to understanding that more, and to step into that world, your world, and that became our world, of the writing,
Yes.
So yeah.
Well, I think the point you made, like, it's, for people, I think, like, with relationships, it's so important to, like, when you go, oh, I like a person, to really take seriously their interest. Like, if you don't like their interests or don't like what they do, or are not going to work to kind of get their interests or their visions or different things, that can be an issue. And so it's just a kind of a piece of it. Like, you really, like, there's something about sharing a work or understanding a person's work that is a deep intimacy. And that can be that can be being a florist, that can be bakery, that doesn't have to be creative, but that's just very important. But you have to be willing to step into the work and to do the work to be able to understand it. Yeah. And that requires facing negativity, which you face.
I feel like I learned, actually, like, I remember working on digressions with you.
Ah, yes.
And we were like you had set a deadline, we were kind of working to get it done before your birthday. And I just remember that, so, like, reading through that book and working on that with you, and oh my gosh, I just laughed so hard. But it was actually through, like, people, I say this because, we've had some talks on, like, literature and philosophy and stuff, but, like, yeah, I was reading your work, your literature, and that's where I was exposed to all sorts of philosophers, all these names, and it's just so funny now thinking back, like, reading these names and these notations that are all these excessive notations and digressions, and sort of just realizing, like, wow, like, I know you opened a whole world for me, like, not only our world of the writing and what we're creating, but also the world of, like, these people who have had, like, are part of this great conversation of what it means to be human. And to me, it just opened this. I mean, it's almost like a universe. It opened a universe for me of just. It's hard to put into words how wonderful that is. But it's like this whole expanse that I just never knew was really there, or why it would really matter to even dive into such a universe. But in doing so, it's been so incredibly, I mean, yes, there's been challenges, but also incredibly rewarding. And it's also taught me about my own drives for what things I want to create, and what, and then the things that we're creating together,
Yeah, that's right.
which, it's always a team effort,
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Oh no, it's, yeah, we did, getting digressions done before the birthday. And
I remember that, because I remember being finishing and being, just really excited. You feel a sense of accomplishment, and then I was going to make you a cake. I was like, I just remember looking up recipes for what cake I wanted to make you for your birthday.
Sweet girl. Very sweet. Yeah, I remember that, and getting up at 5 a.m. so you could do it. The time, and we'd do it, work in the office.
Yes, there was this
small office.
There was a small office, and we'd try to make up, try to get up early. We lived in separate places, but I would come over to the building.
An apartment.
Yeah, and try to get up really early in the morning, because those morning hours are pretty precious. When not everyone has woken up yet, and you can kind of really focus. And so, you'd sit at the one desk, I'd sit at the desk behind you, and we'd work on things. Yeah. And that was feels like yesterday, and it also feels like...
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing you did is you came back to, you graduated, you had that one semester, but then you chose to come back to Charlottesville and live in that apartment.
Yeah, I went up.
So we could do the work.
I went back home to my hometown, and that was, gee willikers, that was one of the hardest decisions. I mean, I don't keep using that as like a hyperbolic statement or something, but it was truly one of the hardest things to do, was to leave my hometown, my family, to come back to Charlottesville.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it just felt like difficult because I'm very close with my family. It also looked to everyone like I was losing my mind. What are you doing? You're not. What are you pursuing? Like, you are what?
Sure.
And a lot of people, even a guy that I had dated in the past, I remember him saying something like, we just happened to see each other at on the lawn or something at the university, and he was like, I don't really know what you're doing. Like, you're just helping this guy out with his writing, and what are you doing? And I was like, well, I don't know. I just feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
And I just couldn't explain it. But, it definitely looked crazy. I really didn't know what what the forecast was, but I felt like that's what I was supposed to be doing, was working on this work, and, obviously marrying you. And yeah, I mean, that's the hard thing is that today we live in a time, especially, I mean, it's difficult for men too. I don't deny that. I think for women, it can be challenging because, you're kind of thought well, you should do something with your degree, and you should make something of yourself. And, if you just kind of, it seems like to a lot of people, it's a step backwards to kind of get married and, live in a rural small town or whatever. And, we were 4 months married when we found out we were expecting our first child. So it's having babies, it's interesting, because I think people do value those things, but when you do it, especially right after college, it can seem like, what are you doing? You should be getting your master's, or you should be pursuing a career. And I don't know. I can't tell you why. I just felt such a strong sense of nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, this path of the writing. I'm going to do this path of marriage. And, it did lead to having children earlier on too for us. But I don't know. I guess for me too, it's I tend to throw myself fully into something. So it's well, I felt that that was what I should be throwing myself fully into. So
you did it.
Yeah.
To your credit, you did it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but you were doing it too. I mean, you were kind of doing the...
Well, the advantage I had is I'd been doing...
The blood, sweat, and tears work of it.
Well, but I've been doing it since I was 8. So,
that's true.
So the advantage I had, it was not weird.
Yeah.
Because it was always weird. Daniel's doing something weird. Well,
That's not new.
He's weird. For you though, it was new,
Yeah.
and so there was a great contrast. So that's very, very hard.
Yeah.
And you had to stick to it.
Yeah.
And that is again extraordinarily heroic and courageous. And you did it.
Oh no.
But yeah, I mean, you did it.
No, heroic and courageous are your words.
No,
Those are words
true.
for you. Those are the words I give you.
I mean, that's the difference between visions and dreams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, dreams are things you can share with people. Dreams are things you can talk about. Dreams are things that, you know, you can basically share. They're very understandable. But a vision requires you to do something that people don't understand. Mm-hmm. Basically, only you can understand.
Yeah.
And it compels you. You know, it compels you through things. Mm-hmm. Where a dream kind of is ahead and it makes you feel nice. You know, very often. But a vision will make you imperceptible, like Deleuze will say. You know, it will make you do things that are very difficult to understand. But there's no way, a people perish without vision, I think is in the Bible. And that's very true. Because, you need that vision to compel you to really move forward through something. But the cost of that, the difficulty of that is steep. It's very steep. And you paid it. You paid it. And you did it. Yeah. And you came back to Charlottesville.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something you continue to pay. There's always a cost, right?
Sure.
And that's part of it, and that's what you sign up for. I think
sure.
that, I think the mutual belief in it is also, like, I have no doubt in my mind that you would have done it regardless of if I came along and like encouraged or said I believe in it too. But I think it's a sweet thing to share, and
yes,
it is encouraging. Like, it's encouraging to. I mean, I'm not. I don't know how. I can't speak for you, but I know it's encouraging for me to see a type of drive, the intrinsic motivation that we like to talk about.
Yes.
I think that's what this is, and I mean,
yes.
that's a really a humbling thing to get to be part of. But you do have to kind of do something about it, right? Like you can't just sit back and like. No. If you're gonna do it, then it also involves you. It involves your time and your energy, and but that's. That's also what makes it so rewarding as well. You know, and such a source of like. Abundance, really.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing with a vision, you see, like, visions will kind of force you to do things that people think you're kind of wasting your time or your potential, or you're not taking enough initiative. I mean, I had a vision of you. I mean, from the start.
Oh, Daniel.
It's true.
That's very kind of you.
But a vision is something that you kind of have to let unfold.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to put yourself in the place where it can unfold.
Yeah.
But when you talk about dream, you're like, yeah, every day I'm doing this, and people are like, man, that's so great, you're pursuing that. And I'm not saying dreams and plans are bad.
Yeah.
They're necessary in a sense, but there is the vision of a thing that you condition yourself and put yourself in a place so that it can unfold, because you don't have because like I said, with you, I didn't I didn't have certainty. Mm-hmm. The hand had to be open for the bird. And the visions are like that. So it goes with the writing. I mean, you don't know with certainty how it will unfold or what it will have you do. But it can't be a vision unless you put yourself in the place where it can unfold. Yeah. And it can be there. Yeah. And you have to choose to take that risk and to step into that quote-unquote clearing.
Right.
And to make that occur. And you did. And it's very difficult because it seems like you're crazy.
Yeah. Well, and you did too.
But again, I was always crazy. So, people were like,
they're like, oh,
indifferent.
Nothing new for Daniel.
Yeah,
what
they were
the
indifferent.
heck is Michelle doing?
Yeah, they were indifferent to it. It's like, it's a crazy guy. Sleeps on a clot, freaking sleeps in a car. I mean, so it was very difficult. So to your credit. And you came back.
Yeah, I did come back, yeah.
Well, we did.
I just want to say something really quick on dreams and visions. I've always had very vivid dreams. I love dreams. I would talk with my twin sister about my dreams. Lizzie with my dreams every morning. Almost every morning we would share our dreams. and I think it is true that it's something you can share. I think that it's also, I think that I'm fascinated by dreams because it's such material of creativity, and it reveals so much about your subconscious, your unconscious. Not to get into those words, but yeah, basically just your unconscious. It shows you about things you maybe didn't know about yourself, but that's there. But I think the thing about that's why I still really love dreams.
Absolutely.
I think there's a place for dreams.
Yes.
But the thing is that, people often peg doing something like what we're doing as daydreaming.
Yes.
Like, oh, your heads are in the clouds.
Sure.
And I think that's where it's like, no, this is something different, because it is vision. It's because it's taking the actual it's taking what could also be considered like a dream, but it's taking it and making it something you actually do on a daily basis. And in that way, it's vision, because to your plan's vision distinction, it's something you're actually doing every day. You're actually working toward it little by little every day.
Yes.
So yeah, I think there's something of a neat sort of dialectic we could talk about with dreams and visions.
Well, dreams are valuable if brought into visions.
Yeah.
But they themselves must be brought into the visions, in order to be realized.
Yeah.
They have to be, it's a C.S. Lewis order thing. First things first have to, or you lose, second things are first, you lose both. So it's not to say dreams are bad, but dreams without vision, they tend to just be dreams. They tend to stay dreams.
Yeah.
And the vision compels you. Vision compels you, but you have to choose to allow it to compel you and to follow how it compels you, and you did. And so you came back.
Yep. Charlottesville.
And we did a lot of work.
Yep.
We worked a lot. And at some point, so, this is the part, so what is this, 2014?
Yeah.
13?
2013.
Yeah.
Well,
no, 14 at this point, wouldn't it be? Because we get married in summer 2014.
Yeah. So this is 2013.
Oh, you were there 2 years.
I guess. Yeah, I guess I was. It was 2012 when I...
Yeah.
That was the first, yeah. So 2012, 2013, I guess so.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
Wow, that felt like a blip. It was so fast.
Yeah. So we did a lot of work. And somewhere in that, so we worked at Unoya. We did a lot at Unoya, that community, that blessed community of people.
Yes.
Which is very important. All the classes we did with Bernard, the great, legendary Bernard. And at some point, because you were so deeply involved and had done the work, it was appropriate, and we were going to get married. There was some point in there where this became, probably not the first year, but the second year, where this was more, we did that engagement video in that December.
Wait, we got engaged, December 19th.
Yeah.
2013.
2013?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been. Yes, okay. And, so we did this. But at one point, we decided we had to, kind of deeper, because the relationship was not just editorial writing, because it was mutual. It was working and creatively going off of one another. And so we were thinking about a pen name. We were thinking about a pen name.
Yep.
And you also had to set it up with the copyright and the business and, all these different things. So we sat at the back at that big round table, because that back became a spot.
Yeah.
With the round table and Bernard and all the people. Yeah, that was cool.
I remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah, that was amazing. And we wrote out a bunch of possible names, because we were trying to mix our names together. Like Daniel, Opperman, Garner, all these different names.
My maiden name is Opperman.
Yeah, and then Rose. And we did a bunch of things, a bunch of possibilities, and we went through the list, and Bernard came out, and we asked him, and we went back and forth and worked it down. There was one with an L. It was like L-O, Garner or something. But eventually got to the place where we liked O.G. Rose.
Yeah. We liked O.G. Rose. Yeah.
Yep. And it's Opperman, Garner, Rose. Rose was nice because, the middle name.
That's my middle name. It's also my grandmother, maternal grandmother's name.
Yeah. So Opperman, Garner, Rose. We like that. At the time, we were not aware of O.G. Rose, as in, O.G., original gangster.
Original gangster, we had no concept of
no
that.
Concept.
None. Zero.
Well, the other reason we liked it, is kind of, you had the Our God Rose.
Yeah.
So that was
Our
the
God
other
rose,
play.
that was
I mean,
the
that was the
resurrection,
alternative meaning. Was
ascension.
kind of like
Yeah.
resurrection, ascension. Our God rose.
Yep, that's the other meanings behind the name.
Yeah. So that was the other thinking with it. So that's why I went for it, because it meant Daniel and Michelle, and also Our God Rose. And we picked it, and we solidified it, and did all the paperwork. And so OG Rose arose in there. And then we had that engagement. You can still see this engagement video. We got engaged December 2013. That was fun.
That was so fun.
We pretended like it was a Tom-Tom commercial.
Daniel like made up some whole. He pretended like we were filming a commercial for.
Bernard and I did
event
this in 24 hours. Bernard and I were like in Panera, like planning and like getting the script and asking people.
Yeah, like while I was doing editing, I also like did babysitting jobs, nanny jobs.
Yep.
So I was babysitting that night or that evening, and then I was gonna I came to Unoya to quote unquote film a commercial for a Tom Tom festival.
Yep.
And I mean, guys, I was completely caught off guard. Daniel had rallied like Trossi and Bernard and
and
all of
Nick,
these Nick, like a ton of people.
Excalibur.
To all just like
Nick.
be in on this this plot.
Yeah.
Where I thought I was doing a commercial, but really, like, Daniel was going to propose to me.
And since it was a commercial, was filmed, and there was photography.
Yeah, it was filmed. Yeah, that's why we saw the YouTube video.
Did the music. Yeah. So
and then Bernard, he blessed us with, like, a spoken word.
He did his own spoken word. That was amazing.
For engagement, and it was just... And then, like, all these people just, after you proposed, after the commercial part of it, where, like, we did our lines, but then, like, suddenly you didn't say your line. You said, like, will you marry me? And, I'm just, like... It just was so surreal and so amazing. And of course I said yes, and then like all of these other friends come and show up, and like there's this like whole spread of like like apple cider, like hot apple cider and food, and like people are just showing up to congratulate us, and I'm jumping up and down like a hyper person. It was really fun and really special.
That was fun. Yeah.
So that was our engagement. Yeah. Engaged. We got married June, so like a couple, like about 6 months later.
We did.
In June.
We did. Then we
June
came
7th.
out to the farm. We worked at I worked at a wholesale. Worked at the venue too. Michelle, we had children.
Yeah.
We've done work in there. You had Turn the World, Blackout, Digressions. Ironically, that's been folded into The Truth and the Rational, and then that was a giant book, and then was folded into smaller books.
Yeah.
2014, and it's 2023 now. That's crazy.
It is truly crazy.
Yeah.
It's genuinely nuts.
Sure is.
I think it's been really neat to meet the people we have. It was a very special place for us. We met a lot of really cool people. But the spirit of it lives on, and we love to see that extended and continued through the friendships that we've been able to also make through the philosophy world, the online philosophy world, and Indie Thinkers, Philosophy Portal, all of these great places, and it's really special. Like the people we know now too are just just incredibly unique and special people to us. So it's been really really neat to continue that spirit of.
Well, it's
what
like
we've always have had together with the people we know now.
Well, it's like you see Unoya at Voicecraft, and like you said, other thinkers, philosophy, etc. It's online. You have the book to pay and say all these different people, and the nets, and that's been very important, and that's been special, and So we worked in all those years sending letters off. We had publications and magazines and different things.
Daniel is amazing. Like he relentlessly sends out our fiction work to magazines, lit mags. We spent some time thinking about actively trying to pursue an agent.
And they all want you to build a platform.
And it's rough out there, guys. It's not. It's difficult, especially for people who do have a philosophical bent to their writing. But it's just you got a lot of competition, you got a lot of people, and it's also like it's very interesting. But I think it's really neat to see the possibilities unfolding these days for self-publication, for, you know, just being able to network with people and have people start to know your work through you, you know, not through an agent, not through a publishing house. Not that those are bad, but just being able to know it through you yourself. And that's pretty cool. So
yeah, and I mean, the nice thing is, I mean, there's no publications for, like, independent philosophy work. You know, none, unless you got a PhD or whatever. So you got all this work, and that's what we've, you know, been working on doing the quarter, because they were all like, well, you need a platform, you need following, you need X number of sales. It's like, but guys, if we put it online, you won't publish it. It's very strange. Yeah, it's a very weird thing.
There's some strange, like, stipulations and such, so
it
makes it
weird.
very difficult in the formalized world of publishing.
The literary stuff,
Literary
I mean, and so you do, but that's just, I mean, I get it, but, so, you know, that's why, you know, we've done so much of O.G. Rose in the philosophy world and different things, and that's been good. I mean, because you have these communities that are interested in that stuff, so it's been nice to have this philosophy work that is not, quote-unquote, unpublishable, or you can't do anything with it, you know, because there are groups that care about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, you know, a huge part of what we do, and, you know, my time, like, you know, I homeschool our children.
Sure.
I'm mothering is a big part of my time and your time as parents. I think that's been so eye-opening and definitely actually concretized, if that's a word, or made more, you know, much more in touch with reality and the nuance of life to have children.
Oh, yeah.
And think about, how does philosophy relate to actually to children.
Yeah.
And also, they are themselves their own little philosophers, and they ask so many questions and challenge you in so many unique ways, but also, you know, just show such incredible wonder and curiosity. All the things that I love to speak about when thinking about the children and children in general. Just our children are they've got beautiful big personalities, and it's so fun to just watch them grow. But like it's a big part of our work too, is like cultivating, you know, pouring into their lives and seeing what they're interested in, you know, encouraging their interest as well, because, you know, they may not necessarily want to do the things we do necessarily, and that's totally okay.
That's right.
And so it's neat, and it makes me have to learn beyond my, like, comfort zone, because, like, I think I never really liked it, kind of. I think we're definitely, I mean, if the story doesn't share that, you know, getting outside the comfort zone and pushing to do things that are different, that's what I think we've always kind of been about. But, like, you know, for example, our oldest son is really into, like, coding and, like, computer programming, so it's like you literally, like, have to learn some of that to understand, or at least give him some resources and kind of guidance on how to keep pursuing it himself.
That's right.
So it's just neat. It's interesting. Definitely total learning process, and we're always still learning, because, you know, still more to learn and to grow and to do, you know, to do.
Indeed. You know, you keep at it, and well, you know, you're blessed by this community, because there's a lot of support there. We've had a lot of support from people along the way.
We have.
You know, visions bring with them an imperceptibility, but there are people that choose to believe, and that's not easy, to their credit. And I could list off names, but it'd be hard to start. So we're very blessed in that regard. So 2023.
Yep.
When I say O.G. Rose to you, Michelle, what do you think?
Whew. Well, I genuinely think about it so much now in terms of, well, it's very hard to pinpoint it to, like, particular description, but I think of it now too as a participation in something that's building and growing right now in this current time, that is very, very cool, very unique, and beautiful, really. Like, I think of O.G. Rose as being a part of that, participating in the unfolding of what's happening today, in the minds and the creativity of those we get to connect with. And then, of course, I think about, I think about all the fiction works, and, you know, it's always kind of like we talk about it, where, you know, you just, they're like their own people. It's like the works themselves are their own entities. They're kind of their own, like, you birth them and they're there, and, you know, so I think there's definitely, like, an anticipation about that, you know, like excitement for that, that to have those works be out into the world as well from OG Rose.
Mm.
So that's what I think. What do you think, Daniel?
I think about you. I mean, you didn't have to be here. And you are. And I'm very glad you are.
I'm glad you're here, babe. Thank you.
Thank you. For more about OG Rose, please see Twitter, Instagram, etc. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for your support. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.